well, your bloods are actually showing that you've got kidney failure, like your kidneys are only working about 9%.
What you're talking about is being looked after in a service where you do feel safe.
Not only did I receive the very best care that I think I could have ever had, but I continue to still have it.
My name's Rosemary and I'm a rheumatologist based in Aberdeen, and I'm joined by Nicola Welsh, who's someone living with a rare condition. Nicola has vasculitis, and that's a group of rare conditions that cause inflammation in the blood vessels. Blood vessels in any part of the body can be affected, including the kidneys, the lungs, the skin, the eyes and the ears. And people are affected in different ways and to different extents. For example, sometimes it can be mild to severe and life-threatening. Nicola, would you like to tell us about your diagnosis with vasculitis and what were the important parts of care for you?
Yeah, so I've had the condition 6 years now. And interestingly, when I was diagnosed, I actually felt relatively okay given the severity of then what was the outcome. So at the time I was looking after my mum, she had terminal cancer, so I was tired, I've got 2 kids, so life was really busy. There was something there in me going, I'm not quite right, but it wasn't enough to be like, I really need to get to the doctor. So when I finally got there, I appeared sort of saying, I think I'm just stressed, I think maybe it's anxiety because I've started to feel a bit sick. And I was surprised when the doctor then said, I'll just take your bloods there and then. And I left, went home and actually didn't think anything else of it at all. And then that was on the Wednesday, and on the Friday I got a phone call about 3 o'clock. So we've got the bloods back and you need to go up to the hospital. I was like, well, it's Friday, maybe we could go in on Monday. That's how unpoorly really I was. And then I could hear the tone of his voice start to change. He was like, well, your bloods are actually showing that you've got kidney failure, like your kidneys are only working about 9%. I don't think anything prepares you for that. Like I couldn't get in my head what he was telling me, to be honest. I ended up going to my local hospital and was just put in sort of that general, I suppose, medicine, and they kept saying like, well, we're going to get some fluids in you and just kind of see how you do over the weekend. And of course, if anything over the weekend, it doesn't progress very quickly in a way because some of those top consultants, the specialists aren't around. So they'd explained that I would be seen by renal at the Royal Infirmary in Edinburgh, and it was to go there on Monday. Very quickly then had biopsy, and I think before the results of the biopsy came back, I had spoken to my consultant on the Wednesday who said, I'm pretty sure you've got vasculitis. And then I remember going into a small room and being told what that was, and that felt like really overwhelming to hear. And I remember my head absolutely swimming when they started talking about how they were going to treat that and different treatments that they would use. What I'm always reminded by when I hear of other people who have vasculitis is the speediness of my diagnosis. And I spoke to my GP about it later to sort of say, what was that like made you take my blood? Is that normal practice for you? Is that what you always do? And he was like, no. He said, but he's been around long enough that he said in your practice you get to know little signs. If it hadn't been for his intuition and speed of taking those bloods, it saved my kidneys for sure, and it allows me to have the lifestyle that I have now, without a doubt.
What sort of impact did it have on your life, having the diagnosis and of going through the treatment and things?
It's sort of, I see my care in sort of 2 sections. So the first was learning I had it and trying to think, what is that? What does it mean for me? I think I then thought about my kids. At that point, I didn't really think I was super critical. Weirdly, I was, but I probably refused to think that maybe that's a safety. And then, so initially I had the treatment, but then it wasn't doing enough. I went home, so I started and then I went home, and I got worse. So the second time I was admitted, I was really not very well at all then, and I think they realised that the treatment wasn't targeting as quickly, and at that point there was a more serious edge to it. When he was sharing the news then, he was like, this is more serious than we think, and at that point I got this, like, I could tell from the tone this was going to change. That I probably was going to look at dialysis straight away and then a kidney transplant, and that I found really, really hard. I think at that point I needed someone to see me as a person with everything else that was going on. I'm not sure everybody would be able to speak up, but my consultant there and then actually had a psychiatrist. I think that it felt like there was a connection, like they were maybe friends, but it was almost like it felt to me like this favour. I've got somebody, can you come and speak to them? And so right there and then, like within an hour, I was sat with somebody who was like, I hear you've got a lot going on for you. And even just thinking about that makes me really emotional, because like that was like it wasn't like, oh yeah, we can hear that, we'll come back. There was something about lots of points of my care now I think about it, was like people really saying, I see you. One of the most helpful things that they said was like, I know that you think this is going to define you, but one day, like perhaps at your eulogy, like number 25 interesting facts of Nicola was she had kidney disease, and that really, really helped, because it was like, yeah, that's right, it's not all of me, because at the time when you get diagnosed with something, all of you. Absolutely, like life is over essentially. So from then I think what happened was I felt I was a person rather than a patient, and that was really important for me, because like the line of work that I do, it was important that somebody understood that, like, you know, me being unwell meant that bereaved families wouldn't get the care and support potentially that they needed, because then the charity could be impacted. So there was this ripple of like, but if you get me better, good will come from it, and like, and I've got children like that need me, and so in the end I got great care. I mean, I really, really did. My consultant was extraordinary at kind of reading my mind, it felt like, at different points. He would think about what was best. So when I got the plasma exchange, often the line goes in the neck, where he did an internal line, because he was like, you've got your kids, I want to get you home, and I want to make you feel as normal as possible. And just small things that actually meant that I could spare others. The steroids for me were really, really, really challenging, because I couldn't actually then, importantly, like I couldn't escape the disease, if that makes sense. So you're asking how it impacted me. Like I wanted to do as much as I could with what energy I had, but because the steroids made me look so different, like I actually couldn't even if I wanted to just go to the supermarket and just pretend I was okay, I couldn't, because I could see the shock in everyone's face. So either they didn't recognise me, or they'd stand, you know, kind of like horrified at what they were seeing, and that would lead me to have to tell them the story. And then just at the point that I was getting a bit stronger, then my mum moved in with me. And I was actually able to then care for her, and she died with me in the home. And again, all these points, I suppose I'm highlighting them because if I hadn't felt either physically well because I was getting the best sort of treatment, or emotionally well, I might have missed what becomes like great events in my life, was to be able to honour my mum's death by feeling like I'd felt cared for was really, really important.
What's it like now living with an invisible rare condition?
I'm well in that I think I've forgotten what it was like before. And I remember my consultant saying that to me, that you kind of adjust and your body adjusts, and it's like it's a bit of a hazy memory of the before Nicola. Ultimately, I will live with just total gratitude that not only did I receive the very best care that I think I could have ever had, but I continue to still have it. That's why I'm really keen that we do as much as we can for rare diseases, because, you know, it is an invisible illness as well as an invisible voice, if I'm honest. So us talking today allows me to kind of share some of the impact, and the hope that even if somebody was watching it, they might be like, oh, I know what you mean. It's hard to articulate it, but you're seen by somebody, I think.
What you're talking about is being looked after in a service where you do feel safe, that can catch you if things fall, because things can be really unpredictable.
I think that's really important, is to feel that there's a safety net under you, perhaps. You're not just dropping down into a bottomless something. Like there's a safety net, and actually that makes you feel cared for. The fact that then, you know, somebody's like, listen, your bloods have changed, you'll need to come in and start treatment. I know you'll worry, but don't worry, you know, this is like for you. I think all that helps you feel looked after.
Nicola's experiences of living with vasculitis have highlighted some really important issues. We heard about the importance of timeliness of access to care, the fact that her GP's intuition probably saved her kidneys. We know, for example, with heart attacks and strokes that time is muscle and time is brain, but in rare conditions such as vasculitis, a delay of a few days can mean the difference between going on dialysis or even worse health outcomes. We also heard about the importance of seeing Nicola as a person and recognising that the wider impact of having vasculitis has on work, on family and on caring responsibilities. And also the importance of being looked after in a service where you feel safe, that unpredictability, the fact that things can flare up really quickly and having that timely access when things go wrong. And once again, I'd like to thank you, Nicola, for sharing your experiences. Thank you.
Thank you.